Hey, Kyle Gorman here. And today I want to talk a little bit about job descriptions. We get a lot of questions about this. Obviously, the job description is sort of the first impression that a candidate gets about you and your company. And a lot of people tend to get this wrong. And you really need to put a lot of work into a job description. And oftentimes, what we see is people just take something that they have out there and tweak it, modify it, or they'll take a full kind of job manual or an internal job description that is 5, 6, 7, 8 pages and put that out there in the market. But so let's talk about job descriptions real quick. First thing I want us to understand is there's really two main goals of the job description. Again, this being the first impression you're making. So the two main goals are this: you want to attract the most candidates, but you also want to attract the right candidates. So make sure you really understand the difference between the description that you're going to use for recruiting purposes and one that you're going to use for on the job purposes that would really be kind of step by step, really detailed on exactly what the job entails. Another big thing I highly recommend here is keep it simple. Try, if at all possible, to keep it just a one page. Keep it very simple. In fact, I like to use a format where we just kind of put a paragraph about what the position is, and then another paragraph briefly describing the company, and then some bullet points that say, these are some requirements and qualifications for the job, and then these are some things that we'd like to see the ideal candidate look like. But keep it simple. One thing that I do see some companies doing now as well, it's become a more recent trend, is what I call a fun description. And these can be okay, so where the job description comes out and says, are you this type of person? Do you want this type of job? Do you want to be in this environment? And they really talk about the intangibles, and then kind of throw out, well, then you need to apply for this. That can be good for certain types of jobs, but a couple of things that I do want to caution you on, that needs to match your company culture. So if you are a real kind of prim and proper company culture, then you don't want to put a job description out there like that. That's not how you want to promote the position, because it doesn't really match who you are and the experience they're going to get when they get into the company. Also, it certainly depends on the type of position that you're going to be looking for. That's not a CEO description that you're going to put out there. But I typically only recommend this type of job description for social media, where you really want to grab people's attention. And that's the main benefit of a fun description, is it attracts people's attention. It gets their attention. And so social media is a great place to use those, but not necessarily, in my recommendation, on job boards and in passive searches. I also recommend keeping it fairly vague, because you don't want to disqualify someone and keep them from applying. So you don't want to put every little detail of the job and say, well, as part of this job, collections is required, when really collections includes once a month, they've got to make 3 or 4 phone calls to follow up on open invoices, because that's going to scare some people away if they read through 10 job responsibilities and one of them says collections. So don't disqualify someone right from the get-go, just because of something you've put in the job description. And this is really important. If you remember nothing else, please remember this: the title is so important. It's one of the most important parts of your job description. You can call this position whatever you want internally, but for the job description, the title should be something that people will be searching for. So as an example, if you want to call someone an internal liaison for custom accounts internally in your business, that's fine. But if this is a customer service position, list it as customer service, because no one is going to be searching for liaison for custom accounts. People will be searching for customer service representative, customer service, customer accounts, customer account executive, account manager. They're going to be searching for basic terms. So don't confuse people by your job title. Make sure that it makes sense. Also, you want to avoid industry jargon unless the knowledge of that jargon is required for your position. You don't want to scare people away again and them thinking, oh, well, I don't know what that means, therefore I'm probably not qualified for this position. So unless it is necessary for the position, for them to know that prior to coming in, avoid industry jargon, because you may understand what it means, but it could potentially scare people off. And as I mentioned earlier, in sort of the format that I prefer to use, you do want to give some information about your company. And in fact, only in very rare circumstances should you leave the company confidential. But if you leave the company confidential, expect only about 30% of the candidates that you're going to receive if you go ahead and put that company out there. Even if for some reason you do need to leave the company confidential, I still recommend giving some information about the company, the industry, what kind of space you're in, general market that you serve, so that someone that's looking at the position can get a little bit of a snapshot of what they're going to be walking into. And then a brief overview of expectations and qualifications. If there are disqualifiers, list them, but make sure you understand the difference between something that's required and something that's preferred. So if your position requires a certification, you can list that. But if you would prefer them to have it, be sure that you just simply say, this is preferred. You want to be very careful about listing disqualifiers that really, if someone came with certain things, it'd be okay. As an example, really see this a lot with education, that people will say, bachelor's degree in this field is required. But in reality, someone that came with a bachelor's degree in another field, or someone that came with no degree but 15 years experience, would be just fine. So be very careful not to disqualify people right there in the job description. Again, going back to two primary goals. We want to attract the most candidates. We want to attract the right candidates. So play around with these things to make sure that you are accomplishing those two goals as you review and build job descriptions for the jobs that you're putting out in the market. If you have any questions, we'd love to help. We certainly have a lot of experience putting together job descriptions and working through that and figuring out the ways to attract the most people and the right people. So feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email. We'd love to talk you through that and see how we can help out. But until then, have a great day.